All right, class, I'm picking up where I left off. We're in a name box. Again, what I was saying is that you need to highlight the cells you want. Come up to the name box here, delete it, type in the name of what you want to name the box, and therefore those cells are referenced. Like B3 through B8 is now test 1. And then you can use that instead of typing in a range, you can just type in test 1 in formulas to add it up. It's a very nice function for VLOOKUP. We'll get to that here in just a second. Here's a VLOOKUP statement. Again, V stands for vertical. These columns are vertical and not horizontal, so that's why it is VLOOKUP. You can see here they have a range. They did not name the shipping fees, and so therefore it says D11 with your absolute cell reference and E15. If they would have named it, they could have just typed in the name of that range, and it would have been on there. Okay, so B4 is what we're referencing. In this case, we're looking at the amount. Okay, in B4, $245.25. We're going to reference the table. Either it's a range that's absolute cell reference. You have to have it absolute, otherwise it won't work. Because when you fill down, it's going to try to change and it won't work. So you have to make sure that it's absolute. You can press, well, if you're on a PC, you can press F4. Manually put them in Apple. Or you could just name it. I would always suggest naming the range because it's much easier. And this 2 stands for 2 columns. Going back to your table, this is column 1, this is column 2. We could have more columns, and then it would change. If we want to reference column 3, then we put 3. So we're going to look at B4. It says $245.25. We come here, it's between 0 and $225. Therefore, the shipping fee is going to be $12.50. We're looking at column 2 there. So $12.50 is placed in C4. If we reference this B7 here, hospital food service, they have quite a big bill, so therefore it's going to be free shipping because they've spent over $1,000. A lot of times what happens is they say everything under $250, and so therefore you put in 0 because between 0 and $255, Excel is going to be able to calculate that. If I had review questions pulled up or an assignment pulled up, I might be able to do that for you here in a little bit. But in this case right now, what you need to know about the table itself is it has to be in ascending order, so therefore it's smallest to biggest. It has to be one value. You can see here they got 0, 255. They don't have a range. They don't have 250 to 499 in this cell right here. They have 250, the smallest value, and you cannot have range. So those are the 3 rules: ascending order, no ranges, and you have to have one value, and it's always the smallest one. So if it ever says under 0.25, if it says under 250, almost always it's going to be 0 because 0 is going to reference everything between it. Okay, so don't get confused on that. Again, in this lookup, you're going to reference B2, so 130. 130 references column 2, which is high to normal. Move on to the next slide. You can freeze cells. In this case, we selected B6. And we froze everything above it and to the left of it. So when you scroll, doesn't let me scroll. So when you scroll, the outside is frozen and everything in here is what moves. I'll show you an example of that when we get into Excel. You can place a hyperlink. In this case, we are in A1, and we're going to do a place in this document and we can reference it. So when you click on a cell, you can reference another cell. I'll show you that when we get into Excel through the PowerPoint. Macros can be confusing. Basically, it's a recorded series of commands. And so if you wanted to bold, highlight, change the font, change the color to text, you can record it, and you do those series of actions. So you're going to go ahead and name your macro. You're going to create what shortcut you want it to be. You're going to click record. You're going to do all those commands. You're going to click stop recording, and then every time you press the hotkey, which would be Control plus whatever key you say you want it to do, it's going to do exactly what you had recorded in your macro. It's a nice little function. It's not used a whole lot in computer applications too, but if you had to do something 1,000 times, 100,000 times, you're going to create a macro and save a lot of time. Okay, so there's the PowerPoint. I want to get into Excel. Okay. I have a couple Excel documents opened up here. I think All right, so let's go Florida flights first. If you want to, open this up. I'm going to move quickly so the video doesn't last so long. I am going to delete this here quick. These are the answers. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it, and then I'll create it. One of the first things you need to do is create a choose function, okay? And I don't know why I don't have a delete key. Just do it individually. In fact, I'll keep the above ones. We can just show you from the first one. So this is the choose function. In D4, we are going to type in equals choose. I got one too many O's. The index number is what you're going to reference. Again, in the PowerPoint, I explained that it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 254, one of those. So please do not choose a number that's bigger than that. That's not going to work. In most cases, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So this is going to be B4. We're going to reference cell B4, separated by the comma. The first value, I believe, in the book, it would be $199 per ticket. The second one is $499. We'll double check that here in a second. Hit enter. $425. Not $499. I don't have my book in front of me here. I'm just going off of what I remember. Okay, so here's the problem. It gave the ticket price of $199 because that's what the reference was. It was for coach. Number 2 was for first class. But we need to multiply that by the number of tickets purchased, and so therefore we can figure out our revenue. So again, we have choose B4. The book tells us in the book that coach is $199 per ticket, and first class is $425 per ticket. So therefore, we're going to multiply the number of tickets purchased, and then we can fill down, and that is all what Florida Flights is. I'm going to show you drop down here in a second. In this case right now, if we wanted this to just be option 1 or 2, let's go ahead and delete what's in there, otherwise it might not let us. We're going to create a data validation. So select B4 here, click on data. We're going to go to data validation. Again, everything is slightly different. There's our pivot table we're going to create later on. Okay, right here. It doesn't say data validation, it says validate. Okay, so we're going to click the drop down arrow, we're going to click on data validation. And we want any value, we want it to be a list, and we want it to be either 1, 2. Hit enter, and therefore, when I click the arrow here, now it's either 1 or 2. And therefore, we don't put anything else. If I try to put in, if I delete this, and I try to put in 35, hit enter, it won't let me because I created the data validation. That's what that is. It's a great tool. There's many other things you can do. If I click on validate here again, oh, won't let me. I'm going to go back to 1. I'll click on validate again. I click on data validation. I can do whole numbers. You can do dates. You can do custom and make a phone number if you want. Social security numbers. Just anything that you want there, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, I have one more I want to go over. This is target zone. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Your book is going to give you this information. Don't type these in, okay, because we're going to look it up. Okay, so in target zone, you're going to look at a VLOOKUP. So it's going to be equals VLOOKUP. Again, V stands for vertical. Okay, we're going to reference what we want to look up. In this case, it's the age, comma. We should have the name of the table, which I cannot remember. I think it's called. Let's see what the name is. I'm going to have to delete that. To see what the name of the table is, we can highlight this cell. You can see we named it zone. I forgot. Okay, so you can see here if I just select the cells, it doesn't do anything. If I select a range, it just says the first one. In this case, if I highlight the table that I have named, it was already zoned. This is the answer key here, so everything's done. It saves us time here. But anyway, so here's zone. Yours would have said A9. So you need to delete that, type in zone, click enter, and now you just name that range zone. So now I go back up here to VLOOKUP. So equals VLOOKUP. We're going to reference B2, comma, we named it zone. You can see it turns green if that's correct. You can see if I name it zon, it's black. Once you know that you've named the table correctly, it turns green. So therefore zone. And then I'm going to go comma. And now we're going to look at column 2. In Excel, it's always going to be 2. It'll never be more. If you do your personal project, you could have column 3, column 4 if you want. But in Computer Applications 2, working with Excel, it'll always be 2. But you need to know that it's referencing the second column. So we're looking at B2. We're referencing the table, and we're going to put in whatever column 2 has. That's what that means. Hit enter. And you can see that age 25, our target heart rate should be from 98 to 46. At 20, you can fill down. It's 100 to 150, and that is target zone. Let's say that I wanted to create something without the names. I wanted to create a pivot table. I just want to show you this. I talked about it earlier. If I click on Data, Pivot Tables, I think I need to highlight what I want. So I'm going to highlight my range. I'm going to click on Pivot Table. And a lot of times this is where kids will stop. They won't know what to do after here. I want target zone and age. I don't want the gym member because maybe we don't want to know what the names are. So from there, it's going to have everything else. I wonder, this is filling in funny. There we go. It was, if I put them on here, this is something new to 11 that we don't have here. You can put everything in rows and labels depending on where you want it. Let's try this. That's interesting how you can figure out where you want everything. So the pivot table definitely changes. That's kind of cool. So that's a pivot table. That's how you create that. It's going to be different because we're working in 2008 book. This is Excel 2011. So therefore, everything is going to be just slightly different. And you can see here that this doesn't look like the book probably has it. But that's how you would create a pivot table. I'll probably have more on that later on. We'll take a look at how you exactly, I'll mess around with it a little bit and get to exactly how we need it. There's way more options in Excel 2011 than there is in Excel 2008 or 2010 that we have. I keep referencing 8, but it's 10. So that is all I want to cover today. If you have more questions on a choose function or VLOOKUP, you need to stop in and see. Again, I do want to reference VLOOKUP tables. If I go back to the sheet 1, the table itself, a lot of times in a book, let me just pull up the review questions and show you, and maybe we can work on one. Give me a second. This is going to pull up Chapter 8 review questions. It gets confusing when they actually give you words. And so when I take a look at this here, okay, so let's scroll down here. This is a great example, number 8. When you got a large number of widgets in order, here's the table. They want us to convert this to a VLOOKUP table. So they want from 100 to $4.99 for a 10% discount. Okay, in this case, what you would do is you'd pick the lowest number available, and that's 100, okay? And they have to be in ascending order. So this is what a lot of the exercises, what a lot of the test questions are going to have. They're going to have a table like this for you, and they're going to ask you to create a VLOOKUP table, okay? It looks almost exactly the same, except for column 1, this first one here, has to be, there's 3 rules. It has to be ascending order, so smallest to biggest. It has to be one value, the smallest number value, and then no ranges. And so, you know, from here, that's why if it's 100 to 149, you put 100 because Excel will know that from 100 to 150 is 10% discount. And then when you get to 2,000 and above, you put the smallest number possible, and that's 2,000. I don't think I have any other examples for you in this without showing all the answers. But that's okay. Again, if you have questions, ask. You can see here on the B part of it, again, it was stored in A1 through B5. It must have had a title there. So therefore, yep, right here. So this would be A1. And I don't know if yours pops up. I wonder if the other ones do. But this would be A1. This is B1. So therefore, that's why you would have A2 through B5, with both of them being absolute. That is what you would use for this table here. So hopefully that helps. Like I said, if you have any questions, please stop in and ask. I'll gladly help you out. We got a couple things left. Chapter 8 review questions. I'm sorry, the exercises do take a little bit of time, so make sure you allow yourself enough time. They can be a little confusing. There is an extra credit, that is 8-7. I'm not going to help you much with that because it is extra credit. It gets difficult because it deals with selling, and where kids will mess up is if they're calculating the markup price, they sometimes are satisfied with having the markup price. So if they bought something for, let's just say, $10, they should be selling for $15, but the markup is $5, so they settle with $5. You're never going to buy anything for $10 and sell it for $5. What they found was the markup. They forgot to multiply it to get it back to where it needs to be. So again, any questions, stop on by. Hopefully this helped out. I know this got a little long. But Chapter 8 is a pretty big chapter, and there's a lot into it. After Chapter 8, we'll have a final project. It shouldn't take you too long. You just got to create an Excel worksheet by yourself for anything that you want. So be thinking of something that you guys want to create. And then after that, we'll take the final. It's just a production final, so it's going to be really easy. There's no true false multiple choice. If you're done well on the test, I can guarantee you will do well on the production final. So, like I said, any questions, stop in and ask.